Oizvav. After the Frierdiker Rebbe gave earlier on in the Farbrengen a lengthy and extensive explanation as to the desired state of a chassid in his avodah, service of the Eibishter, in which he should be a pnimi, he should internalize step by step each place he reaches and every ground that he's working on conquering in his personality, in his character, in refinement, he should connect fully, say intellectually, say emotionally, till that becomes completely his domain and conquered ground, and only then move on in an orderly and slow fashion, as opposed to the chassid, which is a makiftik chassid, so to speak. He glosses over, he connects with outer body, higher, so to speak, excitement, but it's not grounded, and therefore he can fall afterwards, and even throughout the avodah, he can be, so to speak, mistaken in regard, and also achitzin, so to speak, doing things outwardly, because it doesn't really represent his real self and where he's at. So this, after the discussion about makif and pnimi and avodah, this impacted those listening in a very powerful way. One of those that felt closer to the Rebbe turned and asked a bracha, that the Eibishter, as the Eibishter zal helfen. Frierdiker Rebbe responded. Frierdiker Rebbe's response is going to describe the place of a bracha in avodah. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Avada darf a bracha as the Eibishter zal helfen. For sure, one needs a bracha that the Eibishter should help. However, one must not be fooled that with the bracha itself, the world itself will not be able to follow through. Maybe also meaning the oilam, those gathered. A bracha is a very good thing. It's precious. It's dear. But when is a bracha good? If it's accompanied by action, if you're doing. As the pasuk says, the Eibishter blesses you in all that you do, stipulating clearly that there has to be asiyah, there has to be action and literal avodah. Avodah b'poil, where does it begin? By plowing and by sowing, planting seeds. And the Frierdiker Rebbe unpacks this. He says plowing one's ego, to throw out the stones that get in the way of planting, and choosing to plant dafka seeds that will bring forth a positive growth. What you implant in your character, what you let into the system. And the Frierdiker Rebbe takes it apart and goes through. He says the beginning of the avodah is with one's self, one's ich, one's sense of self. First, one has to take inventory, make a proper calculation. Who is the I, and what is my I comprised of? Who is the I, says the Frierdiker Rebbe? It's a nefesh elokis. You are a godly soul. That the nefesh elokis is a part, a chelik elokam imal. It's a part of the Eibishter above. And Alter Ben Tanya, when he says, he doesn't suffice with just notifying us that the nefesh hasheni is a part of the Eibishter. Rather, he adds the word mamish, literally, actually. All those intellectuals and people that are invested in understanding know good and well the meaning of the word literally. And in our context, it means godliness mamish. It's part of Hashem. This is the ich, that when a person notices, he understands who he's working with. After that, one has to know who is the ich. That means how it's playing out in his life. He has to take a good look and review what is this ich in his own life, which means in what is myself invested. What should my spiritual self want and desire, and lamaisa, in what type of wants and desires is my self invested in? Such as boinunus, if it's done detailed and taken honestly to one's life sincerely, that is a proper plowing. It breaks the strength, so to speak, the hartkeit, and it reveals the little stones, particles of the leiv ha'evan, of the stone-hearted, which means in a negative sense. After plowing, obviously, it's going to become a leiv basa, it's going to become more receptive. And he gives place and a possibility to clean the field of avodah, to be able to plant over there afterwards proper and good seeds. If one is invested and toils in a orderly avodah, an avodah masudara, the way Chassidus demands and the way Chassidus teaches, then the above mentioned bracha, that can actually take effect and accomplish. And it could also have an effect shaloi lefi erech, like above and beyond what you would have accomplished without the bracha. But if it's lacking that your end of the deal, that's a different story. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, by the Bechukoisei Telechu, the lashon the Torah uses, it says, if you go in my statutes, in my paths of my chukim, so the land will give its crop. And it uses the lashon of oretz, as opposed to in the parsha of V'hayim Shemaya over there it says Yishamru lochem, guard yourself, ben yiftal levavchem, lest your heart go astray. And over there it says, in which case ha'adama lo yisitin es yivula, the ground will not bring forth its crop. Here, da state in the first initial pasuk in Chukoisei, it says the lashon eretz, and in V'hayim Shemaya the lashon is ha'adama. Both of them refer to the ground, to the land. However, in Previous Torah, which unpacks the secrets of Torah, eretz refers to, it's milashon ratzon, it's the willpower, which in the earlier stages of the Farbrengen, the Friedrich Rebbe explained, is a koyach makif. It's an overarching drive. And adama, the earth, that expression of earth, is referring to seichel, to intellect. And he brings, why would adama refer to intellect? Because there are 4 shemos that a person is referred to in Torah and Lashon HaKodesh: Adam, Ish, Enosh, and Gever. And describe the adjective describing a person as Adam, that refers to him as an intellectual being. And the Torah Ish, that refers to a person as an emotional creation, the way he unpacks things emotionally. So, being that Adam is an intellectual, Adama, which is the root of the Adam, that is referring to the koiches of Seichel. So he's going to explain how, so to speak, the bracha, and hence the plowing and sowing in the ground, can affect Sai the Eretz, the koich Ratzin, and Sai the Adama, which is the koich of Seichel. Friedrich Rebbe says, the Gemara says, Yisrael shebechutz la'aretz, oiv de'avodah zarah b'tarahim. Yidden that live outside of Eretz Yisrael, they're, so to speak, serving avodah zarah in purity, in a purer form. Rashi explains, Koloimar, what is a purer form? Unintentionally. Vein samim alev. They don't place it upon their heart, they don't notice. So, al pi chassidus, says the Friedrich Rebbe, one can understand that if a person does something without intention, or without placing his heart, so to speak, noticing, taking to heart, that is avodah zarah. That is a foreign avodah to you. Our avodah is meant to be intentional, taking to heart, implanting in our experience. Because avodah, true avodah, is only avodah that's done intentionally and with taking note and taking to heart. In such a case, when a person serves the Eibishter unintentionally without taking to heart, then the Adama, that means even his intellectual facets, will not bring forth crop. Meaning that even he's a masculine chassidus. He knows clearly, he's fluent in many inyanim concepts, and he can talk chassidus and give explanations, and chassidus has bade him, but lo yisitin hashivula will not give forth fruit. The Friedrich Rebbe says this is what he teaches in the pasuk in Mishlei: Nesim v'ruach v'geshem oyin. There's clouds, says the Friedrich Rebbe. He raises himself up, and there's wind. There's gasas haruach, it's luft, he's haughty, but there's no avodah bepoyel. However, says the Friedrich Rebbe, if it's not like in pasuk in Hayim Shemai, rather in bechukoisei telechu, if you go in an orderly fashion of avodah hamoyach, he's invested in his service of the Eibishter with his intellect, and avodah halev, then v'nosna haaretz yivula, meaning not only there's also the yivul, the crop of the aretz, as he said, the ratzon, the willpower, the more overarching and more forceful powers in a person that are more aloof, which means not only the Adama will also give yivula, his intellectual pneumistic koiches, rather there's also going to be the yivul ha'aretz. And here Friedrich Rebbe spells it out, and he says, we discussed earlier that there is an or pnimi l'mayla. There's a detailed or that limits itself into the vessels of a person and is absorbed according to the limitation of the nivra. And there's an or makif. And we discussed that the or makif, this overarching circumference like hovering over power, is much more powerful than the or pnimi. And we explain in koiches hanefesh, there's also or makif and or pnimi. They refer to Ratzon, the willpower, and Seichel, intellect, as the Pnimistic Koiches. Seichel is the Or Pnimi and Ratzon is Or Makif. The Or Makif, when it connects with the Or Pnimi, then the Or Pnimi is more powerful. However, generally, says the Friedrich Rebbe, now he's going to explain the hafla of the special bracha in Bechukosai. Generally, as we explained earlier on in the Farbrengen, when the Or Makif, the willpower, is invested and is absorbed in the Or Pnimi and makes the Or Pnimi more powerful, then the hashpa, the outcome, is taker through the Or Makif. But at the end of the day, the crop is attributed to the Or Pnimi. It looks like the bearing of fruit of the seichel, of the intellect. The fruit is the Or Pnimi, came through the rungs, etc. The Yivul HaAretz, what do we mean when we say the crop of the Aretz? We said of Koyach HaRatzon, there's a much higher reaping of fruit and of crop, which is directly from the Or Makif. What does that mean? He says not only the Or Makif affects the Or Pnimi, and the Yivul, the crop, relates to the Or Makif somehow. He says over here it comes directly, it so to speak can be traced back to the Or Makif. In Avodah, this is referring to when a person has Re'usa Deliba, a tremendous desire, a blaze of his heart. That is very forceful, and you can trace back and see that it's coming from the Or Makif. Even though it can only come through the Or Pnimi, but it takes on the life and the style of the Or Makif. And in Haskalah, when we're talking about intellect, that is referring to when a person understands the essence of the Seichel, not just the details of the understanding and can unpack it. Rather, he sees the inyan, the godly spark within the Seichel itself, that's in this muscle. The godliness of this understanding. He gets to the heart of it. And this is when the Aretz Titenes Yivula. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, this is the real meaning of this bracha of Nasna Aretz Yivula. B'muchash, says the Friedrich Rebbe, that in Ratzon there's much more in the willpower than actually comes to play, practically speaking. And therefore, this is the bracha. It's actually a triple-like bracha, says the Friedrich Rebbe. That Ratzon, first of all, should have crop, which means it should actually carry out the poil. It shouldn't just stay in the world of Ratzon, in the will itself. Rather, it should actually come, practically speaking, in a literal sense. And not only that he understands well, what's referred to as Noah Doirish, someone that talks well and explains it well. However, he learns a lot of Chassidus, but Tzapoil Toiv, it doesn't play out in a good result. Rather, this is the part of the bracha, is that it should also be good getan, which means Noah Mekayim. He's not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk in a very powerful way. And being that it's an Or Makif, you need an extra bracha that it should be in a truthful and measured way that is grounded. Because in Or Makif, as we explained earlier on in the Farbrengen, says the Friedrich Rebbe, Mekenmen Zechnar, and a person could be fooled by himself. He could be his sense of balance can be off, and like more than our Pnimi, and therefore it should be be'emes. Now, somebody tried to challenge the Friedrich Rebbe on this, because he asked, what's the difference, if so, between a bracha, a blessing that's given to a person, and tefillah? This person wanted to prove that we know that tefillah is what comes through avodah, but brachos, in generally, when the Eibishter gives a bracha, Tzaddik gives a bracha, it's above nature. It overrides our, so to speak, our experience and our what he deserves. And if so, the Friedrich Rebbe is explaining that the bracha ba'aretz titenes yivula, that's avodah mesudara b'chukoisei telechu. A bracha is not through avodah. Bracha overrides our avodah and what we actually deserve. So the Friedrich Rebbe explains that the general hefresh, the difference between tefillah and bracha, is known. That a bracha is referring to the amshacha, what's drawn down. That already there is place for it already. It already has been decided and above, and therefore it's limited. That this is what you're drawing down. However, the power of a bracha is that it should actually flow and come down without any stumbling blocks, without anything stopping it, without anything getting in the way, and it should reach the appropriate place where this bracha can have its proper effect. That thus is the Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, gave all of us Bnei Yisrael a good parnasah and a healthy parnasah a year, that Mezainos Shaladam Subilim Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah it's already been decided and allotted what he's going to have. So it's explained in Chassidus that Mezainos Sav Lashon Rabbim in the plural, his, so to speak, sustenance in the plural form goes on both, is referring to both types of sustenance. Sai physical, but also spiritual, as it says, Ki Choik Yisrael Mishpat Lalakei Yaakov. There are two types of decisions that are allotted to the person. And in that context, what is the bracha? Not that it should override, you shouldn't do an avodah. Rather, as we said, the bracha should draw it down and it should hit the spot. So the mezoinos, the sustenance, ruchnis and gashmis, that have been allotted already on Rosh Hashanah for the entire Bnei Yisrael, throughout the entire world. That should actually come down and play out in a revealed good, and translate into Bana Chaim Mezoina, children and life and food and sustenance, and it should be in a bounty way, in a way that's berachvos. Limud Torah also in Ruchnis, Limud Torah Kima Mitzvah should take place from within a sense of Yirah Shamayim, and we creations understand well and good, says the Friedrich Rebbe, what the nusach of Vaitzarcha Toiv Lanu Siftach. It says, your good treasury you should open before us. So the simple reading is Vaitzarcha HaToiv, your good, your precious and good treasury, open it for us. So he says the Friedrich Rebbe, we have to put asnachta after the word Vaitzarcha. And what that would mean is that your treasury, the way it's good for us, you should open it. That means it should play out in a way that it's good for us. We can actually relate to it in such a way. It's from the Piyut Shar Shemayim Psach, the end of Ne'ilah, and on Hoshana Rabbah. Chassidus, and that's the Friedrich Rebbe is answering his question, that it's true that bracha, so to speak, overrides, but here we're talking about something that was already accomplished. Then there is a avodah there as well to draw it down and make sure it hits the spot, doesn't get stuck on the way with things getting in its way and not being able to be absorbed by the kelim. Now, Chassidus, says the Friedrich Rebbe, explains well that Eitzarcha, referring to the treasury Lamaila, in general is good, but in good itself there is concealed good, and that's the good that the Alter was talking about in the famous letter Yars HaKodesh Yud Aleph Laskilcha Bina, that one has to know that even what seems bad in our experience is also the hidden good. However, says the Friedrich Rebbe, we're asking Toiv Galui, revealed good. Toiv Galui is when it's seen and it's revealed as good, and it translates into Bana Chaim Mezoin Revicha and Limud Torah and Avodah of Chassidus and Mezoin is Gashmi Beruchni, sustenance in all realms of a person's life, and they should come down to all Yisrael without anything stopping, anything trapping it on its way, and it should come to its appropriate and designated place. That is called a bracha, says the Friedrich Rebbe. So, for sure, there's avodah that's affiliated with it, and that's why the Friedrich Rebbe is saying when there's the avodah, then the bracha of Aretz Yisrael comes down in a proper way. But definitely, it's already there, like explained in general in regards to a bracha. Tefillah, as opposed to bracha, is Yehi Ratzon. A person creates, so to speak, brings forth a new hamshacha. Yehi Ratzon, there should be a new will by the Eibishter. And in Parnasa, whether it's in causing a refuah, healing for people, and salvation, and Geula Shlema, the final redemption, this doesn't exist yet in the makar, as opposed to a bracha. You're creating a new, and this is the general difference between tefillah and bracha. Bracha is what already exists l'mayla, and you're causing it to be drawn down in practical and literal sense without anything holding it back. As written on Meher Yard's Dvarei, that his word should run smooth and quick, that the Dvaravaya, in regards to drawing down a flow in Gashmis and Ruchnis, should come down swiftly. And Tefillah is to cause a new, so to speak, will by the Eibishter, a new Hamshacha, higher than the source has been till now. But again, sums up the Friedrich Rebbe, both of them, Saya Bracha and Saya Tefillah, they require charisha and zuriyah. They demand plowing and sowing. Avada, for sure, there's differences in how one should plow when in regards to and sow in regards to tefillah, to the plowing and planting in regards to a bracha, because this is drawing down. A tefillah is creating a ratzon on high, and therefore it's a little less relevant to you, so you have to prepare yourself. This is my explanation. But one would have to prepare himself for a tefillah with schusim more, because you're creating something anew. As opposed to a bracha, you have to prepare yourself in avodah pnimis in a much more powerful way, and this is what the Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was describing. It already exists, it was designated for you, and you have to clear the channels. But Harisha and Zriya, in both of these cases, plowing, that means, as he said, taking a good look at the sense of self and breaking the stiffness a person may have and preparing himself for planting and placing the seeds, the hanagos toivos, that has to exist by both of them. One has to toil, says the Previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Eibishter will help that all this toiling should bring forth good fruits, pre-toiv, sai in the spiritual realm, and sai begashmis and physicals.